I'm so excited to share this episode with you. This is a super special episode because I was in Slovenia when I recorded it with Shannon, who was actually in Nepal. She had just finished this trek with her 6-year-old twins, and we got the first-hand details of right after she finished it, of all the inside scoop. This was their second time to Nepal to do trekking and hiking, and so she just knows so much about water, food, destinations, permits, visas, and so this is just such a fascinating episode. If you are interested in hiking internationally or going to Nepal, you are gonna really love this show.
Welcome to Let's Go Outside, a podcast bringing moms together to chat about the raw, unfiltered reality of doing the exploring we love after having kids. No matter your comfort level of adventuring with the little ones, this is a space to have honest conversations about the real struggles of getting out the door with the kiddos. I'm Danica, a mama living in a small mountain town who's totally obsessed with healthy food and taking my kids outside every single day. I professionally guided backpacking trips in the Canadian Rockies, and I'm certified as a Leave No Trace instructor. On the show, you'll hear real experiences from other moms, plus tips on gear, trail snacks, and the best practices in the wilderness. Whether it's hiking, camping, backpacking, skiing, or traveling the world you want to do more of, this is your place to learn, find encouragement, and strip away any comparison. Come embrace both motherhood and the outdoors. Stick around. This is your place. Welcome to the Outdoor Mom Club. Welcome to the Let's Go Outside podcast. Today I'm talking to Shannon. Shannon is in Nepal, and I am right now in Slovenia. We are both traveling on a multi-month trip with our kiddos, and I'm super excited to talk to her today about her trek and traveling and her family outside. So welcome, Shannon.
Hello.
So tell me about your family. Tell us about Tyson, and I want to hear about what strengths do you guys have as you guys travel together, explore, and for the other listeners that maybe don't follow you, could you share a little bit more about Tyson's health and things ongoing there?
Well, Tyson and I have twin 6-year-old girls, and we love to adventure. We have traveled lots prior to kids, and we didn't want to stop doing that once we had kids. So we just find a way and do it. Another little complication is Tyson's health. He does have some issues with his heart. He's had a few heart valve replacements. So about 4.5 months ago, he actually had our heart valve replaced, and we were still able to make it happen to come here to Nepal to do some trekking. So everyone thinks that how can you trek with kids this young, but it's also Tyson and his heart we have to kind of be cautious about as well. But things been going good. The kids are champs. They trek. We do a lot of hiking back home. So we knew that coming to Nepal was a dream for all of us.
Yes. Okay. So you live in Canada for majority of the year, and then you have done extensive trips in the winter. Could you share how long you've been doing that and how that started? Was that with you and Tyson first, or how did that end up being what it is now?
Yeah, Tyson and I have been traveling. I think it started with 5 weeks at first, and then 2 months, and then 3 months, and kind of grew from there. We had our kids, and we didn't want to stop traveling. After our kids were born, Tyson took paternity leave, so he had 6 months off. So we traveled with the kids when they were 7 months old and went to Egypt, Jordan, and Israel with them. Following year was COVID, and the following year after that. So we had to put things on hold for travel. And then we got back at it again and started traveling again 2 months and 6 months. Last year was 4 months, and this year 3 months. Kids are in school now, so we are kind of trying to keep them in the public school system, but also want to travel. So 3 months seems to be kind of that magic number that they can kind of miss of school. They're not missing too much. Currently, it is spring break, so they're not really missing that 2 weeks there. Our travel is usually January to end of March kind of thing. Tyson works a seasonal job, so it works for us good because he's off December till end of February, and then we just kind of push it till end of March to get those extra weeks out of the whole school situation with the kids.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So is Tyson getting a salary those months that he isn't working, or do you guys save throughout the whole year to make this happen?
We save throughout the year. Right now, he's not getting paid. He doesn't have any paychecks coming in. We save through the year, live below our means at home. We drive older vehicles. We don't really eat out and that sort of stuff. I mean, we do splurge from time to time. Most of the time it's on backpacking gear and that kind of stuff. But otherwise, we don't really spend a lot of money back home, just your typical day-to-day allowances that we have to do. But yeah, we do rent our house out as well when we travel, which is a huge help.
That is so good. We've been trying to do that also. Those little expenses. For us, it's taking our car off of insurance too. That saves a couple $100 too.
Yes, we do that as well. Yeah. That's a huge savings there.
Yeah, all those little things that you can think of.
Yeah.
How are the teachers with your girls being out of school? The community, are people okay with you jumping out of those programs?
They have 2 teachers, and both of them are very receptive to us taking the girls out. We are in communication with them via email, and they're keeping us updated on what the class is doing, so we can kind of keep the kids up to date as well on the learning, so they can just kind of slip back in when we get back to where they should be.
How does it look when you're on these trips? Do you spend intentional time learning with them, or do you kind of bring them in and it feels like everyday natural learning as you go? How does that look?
We do a lot of natural learning as we go. When we are on our long travel days, we're on buses, on airplanes and that kind of stuff, we have the time with them. So we're sitting with them and we're reading with them. We're doing math equations with them and answering all the questions that they have, because kids have a million questions.
Yeah.
Ours probably ask a little bit different questions, like about glaciers and mountains, all that kind of stuff, and cultures, but yeah, so we are doing that, but we don't have a set schedule. We're not like in the morning we do this, or this time of day we do this kind of thing. It's just kind of go with the flow. I do have the Libby app, which we have back home. It's our local library. And so I can download books onto iPad so they are able to still read while we're gone, because we can't lug around heavy books with us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. Can you share how you pick a destination that you go to?
Well, our destinations have to be kind of January through end of March. So we like to go somewhere warm. We want to go somewhere where the weather's somewhat nice. This year, we wanted to go to Nepal. February is when we had to land here in Nepal. The weather's not great in February, but we just love it so much here and the mountains that we figured we're just going to go for it and see how it goes. February is still winter in Nepal. Yeah. But mainly we pick a destination we want hiking and backpacking, but we also want beach and scuba diving. So we kind of try to mix both of those into our travels.
Okay. And do you do a lot of research beforehand, or do you jump into a place and figure it out as you go?
We just usually figure it out as we go. Normally, we're pretty last minute bookers, so I'll kind of look at what flights we can get to go where. I try to find the most inexpensive. Obviously, sometimes you can't do that. We wanted to come here. It was not cheap getting here. That's why we started in the Philippines, ended up going to Thailand, and then to here. That was kind of the most inexpensive way to get here, but it was still very expensive. But once you're here, those countries are all very inexpensive to live and to, it's not like back home. It's very inexpensive here. So the expensive flights, it does make up for it being here, living day to day. And, when we get here, we don't have anything planned. We have nothing booked. We just land and we find a place to stay and let's go from there.
That's incredible. Love that. And that comes because you have done that for years, and you even did it without the kids beforehand. And so this probably was something that was natural, and probably the harder part is just like, how do we navigate the kids' emotions even more than where are we going to stay tonight? Because you've done where are we going to stay tonight so many times. So when you're adding kids into it, you're like, oh yeah, they're in this stage at this time, and then let's figure out how it all works together. Do you find that?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it makes the kids so much more resilient and flexible of everything we do. Yesterday we did an 8.5-hour bus ride, and nobody complained. Nobody even batted an eye, because that's just our normal what we do.
Totally. They're kind of training for it. You've done so many road trips with them. You do road trips back home, and you're doing it regular, so they know what to expect. I find that with my kids as well. As jumping in the car, they're doing so good, or doing periods of long quiet times. They know what to expect as you practice it, and they're so resilient if you do it again and again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I was going to say about the flights. Daniel and I were talking about how you hop to the Philippines to get to Nepal, to Thailand and Nepal, and your flights were more expensive and then your living costs are cheaper. And for Daniel and I, we are really big into getting cheap flights. And so we found super cheap flights to Europe this year. We paid $600 each return trip. That's Canadian dollars.
Crazy good deal.
Yeah, so that was amazing. And so the difference is like things are more expensive once we get here, right? Like hotel rooms in Italy and Malta have been around $90 or $110 for Airbnbs. And food is a bit more expensive. Groceries are pretty much comparable to Canada. But now we have driven into Slovenia. We're on our way to Austria right now. But groceries are way cheaper here and places to stay are way cheaper here. So just like dodging this way has been a good way for us to make it a bit cheaper. But we were just thinking about that. Like if you're doing a quick trip, if you just came to Malta or Italy for a short amount of time, those flights are awesome. But if we're here for a long time, we're spending a lot of money on those accommodations. So for you to do more money on flights and then live there a long time, you're doing well, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and we try to do accommodations between like under $50 a night Canadian. And food wise, I mean, it can be anywhere between $8 to $20 a meal for all of us, depending where we eat. Any local, like a local hidden gem, or if we just want some comfort food.
Yeah.
Then that's a little bit more expensive.
That's amazing. Wow. And so you have been to Nepal before with the girls. What brought you back?
Yeah, we were here 2 years ago with them, and we did Everest Base Camp, a trek with them. We just love the mountains. It's the most amazing place. All the treks here have tea houses to stay in. We tried weighing our options and wanted to maybe try a different country and going trekking there, like Pakistan or somewhere like that, or one of those kind of countries. But all of that stuff is intense. No tea houses, and our kids are still small, and they love being able to stay in these tea houses. And it's nice to be able to get out of the rain and the cold and the wind into a tea house. And most of them, the dining halls have some heat, and because we're trekking when it's a little bit cooler out, not in the ideal trekking time. We're a little bit off season, which is also good because it's not so busy. The trekking, sometimes some of the days we were kind of alone on the trail trekking, and other days there were a few people, but soon, as we were coming down, there's just getting way, way busier because the trekking season kind of starts mid-March. So we're just kind of on the tail end of we're leaving and everybody's coming in now. But tea houses are the way to go when you have small kids versus 10 kids.
For anyone listening who not familiar with a tea house, could you explain a little bit more of what that experience is like or what it is?
So the tea house at the lower levels, it's kind of, I want to say like a motel. So you have your own room. Sometimes you can have an attached bathroom as well. And then they have a main communal dining hall, which is where everyone eats and everyone kind of hangs out. And they usually have a stove in there to keep it heated in the evening. So you can kind of warm up before you go to bed. The actual room you're staying in is not heated. So that's why we bring our heavy sleeping bags from back home to our, heavy temperature. I don't even know how to say it. Our minus 30 degrees Celsius sleeping bags from home to keep us warmer.
Yeah, you need to. Wow, I'm so impressed. And you brought your winter stuff to the Philippines with you first. And did you find a locker for that?
So yes, we brought a 120-liter duffel bag with all of our hiking gear in it. We were able to store it. Tyson actually has a coworker that has a place in the Philippines. We were able to store it with him for the month. Then we were in Thailand for a month almost. And you can just store it at any place you're staying, any hotel. You can store it there and then leave it there. This bag, we even left it when we went trekking and stuff. We left it here at a hotel. It's usually no fee to store your bags as long as you're coming back to the hotel to stay after. So we brought everything that we normally do backcountry back home. We brought it all with us, and that's what we use.
Okay. Wow. That's good to know. That's good to hear about. How did you find a kid-friendly trek in Nepal?
Well, I'd have to say, I don't know if any are actually kid-friendly, but they're also all kid-friendly, depending on your kid's ability. Like back home, our kids hike all the time. That is, they've been doing it since they're babies. So for us, any trek is a kid-friendly trek. There's always risks, yes, of course, but there's risks with any kind of hiking. whether it's back home or here. So yeah, we just picked a trek and went for it.
Okay. And is there a lot of information online, or you have mentioned in your Instagram stories that you've also talked to locals about that? Could you give us a little bit more insight on that?
Yeah, so we do have a local trekking company that we do chat with here. He helped us out with Everest Base Camp, booking the flights when we were here 2 years ago, and kind of, talked us through getting permits and all that kind of stuff. And then once we came back here again, we kind of asked him and said, we want to do this, and what are your thoughts? And he kind of gave us a guidance on, how much things cost, where to get permits and all that kind of stuff. There is stuff online, but there's not really any stuff online about doing any of this stuff with kids. The interesting thing about Nepal is you need a visa to come here. Well, Canadians do. Most people do need a visa, but our kids needed a visa, but we didn't have to pay for them. Their visa was free. Kids under 10 are free. And that's the same with trekking. Everybody needs a permit. Our kids actually didn't need a permit. Kids under 10 are also free permit-wise as well.
Are those expensive, the visas and the permits?
The visa, because we had to get a 3-month visa, because you can only get a 30-day or a 90-day visa. And of course, we're here for 45 days. I think it was it $200 maybe? Canadian. No, okay, $200 American. For the 90 days. I don't know. Next time we come here, we might stay 90 days. But we'll have to come here at least one more time before the girls are 10 because they are free.
Yeah. Wow.
Permit to hike was only $30. It's not that expensive. So yeah, that's not a big deal. And that money does go back into the parks, like the treks and stuff as well. But yeah, so we did talk to some guides and the guiding company. We also bought a map, and we sit down with the map just a few days before we're going to trek it and kind of see how many kilometers a day we can go, what kind of elevation gain we can do per day with kids. It's one of the things you need the knowledge with altitude and kids if you're going to do this kind of trekking, because you could run into big trouble. I mean, you as an adult or kids, if you don't really know your stuff with altitude sickness and how to progress.
Okay. Yes. I've had altitude sickness in Ecuador before, and it was completely miserable. I cannot imagine having my kids go through that. Can you tell us a little bit about how you calculate that?
So after about 3,000 to 3,500 meters above sea level, we only go about 400 meters a day.
Okay.
And take rest days. At like 4,000, you take another rest day. To help your body acclimatize. And we are constantly asking the kids how they're feeling, if they have a headache, if their stomach hurts, if they're not feeling well, anything. And if they did have any issues, we would either wait it out another day at the tea house we were at that altitude, or we'd head down a few hundred meters and sort it out there and then try to proceed again. But so far, we've had no issues with altitude. I mean, it's not just, our kids did it once when they were 4, and they should be fine with altitude forever. It can hit you at any time, any trek. We could have had issues this trek. Thankfully, we didn't at all. But you never know. It just sneaks up on you and gets you.
I get asked quite a bit about the gear that we use while on international trips, especially about our lightweight playpen that we use. We'll bring that into the rock climbing crag or hike it into a beach and really use it for daytime naps anywhere. And so I put together a travel gear list, and I'm really hoping that this doesn't just cover like basic things that you would find on any travel list, but it's unique to the fact that these are specific things that might not be deemed as travel. And they are things that we have used over the last 5 years of traveling with our kids. So I've also included my kids' favorite activities for the plane and for road tripping as well. We have been really enjoying house sitting lately, and so I also put all the details in there. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, it is all linked in the show notes, so you'll find the link there.
Hey, wow. And so you have been in city centers, and then you've been busing out to treks, from my understanding, and then you kind of do a circuit, and then you come back to the city center. Is that how you have been doing it?
Yeah, so we landed in Kathmandu, and we wanted to do the Annapurna Circuit. So we went down to Pokhara, which is kind of further out. But we wanted to leave our bag there so that when we were done the trek, we would have all our clothes and everything. So then we did part of the Annapurna Circuit. The kids did the pass. And then we were going to continue on and do Annapurna Basecamp. But the weather was really bad. It was snowing, and it was really, really terrible. So we ended up going back to Pokhara for about 5 days to wait out the weather. And then we went back up to the mountains. But the only thing with that is we ended up having to get another permit because we had left the park. So, I mean, that part was a little bit of downer, but at the same time, we didn't want to be up there when it was snowing and icy and avalanche conditions. So we waited it out and we were glad we did. We all had a nice little reset and then we were able to go back up and continue on.
That's awesome. It's so awesome that there's so many opportunities to switch it up like that and to take breaks if you need to or come out and go back in. How often is there a tea house?
It depends what kind of hike you're doing, which one. Like when we did Everest Base Camp, there was tea houses every few kilometers. That one, I would recommend if you have smaller children to do that one. It's higher in altitude, but at the same time, you could just trek like 2 or 3 kilometers a day if you wanted. Where the circuit, it's few and far between. So the days on there were a lot of 8 to 10 kilometer days. And could have been longer if we wanted to push them longer. The base camp there were tea houses closer to maybe every 4 kilometers or so. Weather isn't great though. Well, at our time of year we went. By mid-afternoon, it would rain. So you kind of had to get all your hiking done by 1 or 2 or you'd be rained on. And we are fair weather hikers. We don't like to hike in the rain. If we don't have to, we won't do it.
What season did you do Everest Base Camp?
It was done in March. And it was, again, like the season usually starts towards the end of March. And we started the very beginning of March. So we were still kind of pre-season, which is also good because you don't have to pre-book the tea houses. You can just go. They're always going to have room for you. And it's less people.
That's awesome. And tell us about the weather on these. You said a little bit about rain and that you're bringing your warm sleeping bags, but tell us a bit more about the weather because now I know that you're sitting in your t-shirt and you're so warm.
Yes, I am in t-shirt and shorts now. It is hot here. It's like 27 degrees. But when we got here 6 weeks ago, it was cold. I would have been in my down jacket here and pants and freezing. Okay. And by cold, I mean, I think it was maybe 10 degrees. But it was cold compared to where we were coming from Thailand. So
yeah.
Up on the Annapurna Circuit, we had a lot of really windy days, and I'm talking very strong winds, like could almost blow you off your feet, the kids. When we did the Throngla Pass that day, the winds were so strong, and it was an unbearable. Up at the top, we got there at noon, and the winds were so strong, it was minus 15 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
Celsius. It was kind of brutal, but there was no snow, which was a huge bonus.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're thinking. Why do you do these things? Type 2 fun. We like type 2 fun.
And it's funny because you have told me that you're a warm weather person also.
I am. I do not like the cold. I do not like snow. But here I am. And it's because the mountains are so incredible. The Himalayas are so incredible here. You can't get enough of them.
The extremes that you have gone through on this trip, for weather-wise, so many ups and downs of warm and then minus 15, 25 sleeping bags.
Yeah.
Wow. Impressed. I'm so impressed.
But when we did Annapurna Basecamp, when we were hiking up there, it was just, we were in the clouds. You couldn't see anything. And then the last 15 minutes, the clouds parted right as we got to base camp. And it was incredible, and it was so warm, and you're hiking on the snow, and it was so hot.
Wow.
But as soon as night came, it was minus 12, and it was chilly, but we had our sleeping bags. We were nice and next morning, so sunny, and it had to be, I don't even know what. With the sun out, it had to be at least +5 or something. But we were hiking down. We wanted to be in t-shirt and shorts, but we didn't want to burn from the sun and the snow. So we stayed covered up, but we were very warm. And that's why I hike. See, I don't like the snow and I don't like the cold. But when the sun is out, it's just amazing. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And what was that like for the girls to get to base camp this time?
Well, they were so excited. So we were just going to hike from Durali to MBC. It was 4 kilometers and 450 meters elevation gain. So we don't like to go kind of past that 400 a day, but we were already acclimatized from doing the pass. So it was no issue for us pushing higher because we were already okay. So we did end up pushing up 900 meters that day and 8 kilometers. The kids got to wear micro spikes. So they were super excited. That's the first time they've ever gotten to wear them. And they just trucked along and were running and so excited. And the minute they saw base camp, they just ran to the sign. They were just
Wow.
like so.
Can't imagine. You've got to be so proud in those moments. Oh, wow. And for Tyson to be able to do that, like with all it, like through the last couple months of his health being in turmoil the last year, and then coming to be able to do this. What a cool journey.
Yeah, that's from when we got home last year. We got home in April, and it was end of May that Tyson started having his heart issues. And it took all the way till the end of October for him to get his heart valve replaced. And that whole summer was just so frustrating with the health system and trying to get him this new heart valve. And the girls and I still trying to lead somewhat of a normal life of going backcountry camping. But without him, we were sad that he wasn't with us. And he was just at home hanging out because he couldn't do anything. So when he finally got there, we were like, we're booking Nepal and we are going. So it's so cool to be able to be out there and see him be able to hike again and just be so happy. We did have a bit of an incident with food poisoning, but at the time we were hiking and he just said to me, I don't feel good. I don't feel right. Something feels funny. And immediately I'm like, is it your heart? Is it something to do with your heart? Because he's kind of like a kid. He doesn't really express symptoms very well. I have to kind of pull it out of him. But he's like, no, it's not that. He's like, I just don't feel very good right now. So yeah, he ended up having food poisoning in one of the tea houses.
Oh my goodness. It's not fun. But surely that is in the back of your mind as you hike through these places is could something go on with his heart?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in those moments, where's your thoughts through that, I guess, when you're in these international countries and you're thinking like, okay, he's got heart stuff going on. How do you find peace about traveling?
It's really kind of hard to describe. I've only ever known Tyson with his heart issues. So to me, it's just daily life. It's just our daily. And the type of heart issues he has is very rare, but it's a rare kind that he's not just going to have a heart attack and drop dead. He is like, he waited 6 months at home to get his heart valve replacement. So we know that if something was to happen out here, we could probably fly home and get it figured out once we get home versus having to go to a hospital here. And if we were on the mountain where we were, I mean, we might have to get heli-backed out, but probably not. We could probably just rent a mule, get him out that way and get it figured out. But I mean, it's definitely always in the back of my mind, like, what if something happens? But at the same time, I'm not as worried and concerned. But it's also because I've lived with it since I've known him.
Yeah. You got to keep living.
Yeah. And we can't always just think the worst and the what ifs. Just got to live and go with it.
Yeah.
Deal with it what comes.
Yeah. Exactly. Would you share some more lowlights and highlights from the last couple?
Well, the low light was definitely the food poisoning. First it was the girls, and then we were all set to go hiking, and then it was me, and then we did go hiking, and that first day it was Tyson. And for him, he was on the trail. At least we were still back in a hotel, and, it's bad, but not that bad. But for him, I felt really bad for him. And I was saying, do you want to have a rest day? Can we go on? Or he's like, no, I'm good to go. Just bouncing back. Yeah. And they're the highlights. It's just seeing our kids' faces when they see base camp, or just it's so rewarding to see our kids just having the love for the mountains and everything that we do with them.
Yeah. Wow. It's so cool to bring kids along on these trips, these things that we have done before kids, and then we get to take kids along. It feels like such a present. It's such a gift.
It is such a gift. It's incredible. I can't imagine not traveling with my kids. I can't.
And I think I
want to show them the world. We want to show them everything.
And I think we have to remember kids literally live in all of these countries that we're visiting.
That's absolutely right. And everybody says, how can you take your kids to these high altitude places? And it's like, kids live there. There's little kids there. So if they can live there, our kids can go there. You just have to have the knowledge to know how to do it.
Yeah. And how are your girls doing? Have they been lonely? Have they seen other kids? Have they been interacting with other hikers? How's that going?
Our kids are pretty shy. but they have been coming out of their shell. They are talking to the locals. They are kind of playing with the other kids now. They're doing really good. We do FaceTime the grandparents and the cousins a lot back home. They are missing their friends from school, but they also have each other. They're best friends with each other, and they like are constantly together.
Yeah.
And they rarely fight, which is a huge bonus.
That's awesome. So good. And what are you guys carrying? Because you don't need a tent, you don't need food.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're just carrying the bare minimum when we are trekking. Just, like I say, everything that we would take backcountry back home, we're bringing, minus the tent and the food and the cookware.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, we just are carrying one set of all the layers and then an extra set to sleep in. And then a few power banks. We don't even actually really bring snacks because most of the times the tea houses are so close together that you can just stop and get a snack if you need it. I mean, do carry the odd like Werther's candies and stuff like that for if we have to have a motivational moment.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, it's just next time we get to the tea house, you guys can have something to snack on or eat or whatever. But yeah, it's nice and minimal, although I'd have to say our packs are probably, I think mine's about 35 pounds and Tyson's about 40.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So they still are weighted because we do need all the layers because it was quite chilly up there.
Yeah.
But I still bring, like, I always bring the first aid kit and extra medications, power banks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And are the girls carrying packs?
They're not carrying packs.
Okay.
We figure they have lots of years to be carrying packs. They don't need to be carrying packs now. If they were to carry packs, we would probably end up just carrying their packs anyway. So we figure for now, no. Maybe in a year or two. But back home, they do carry a pack. They have some snacks in there and some clothes. But still, I can't really give them a very heavy pack because they don't weigh much. They're under 40 pounds. So really, they can only carry 3 or 4 pounds worth of stuff. Really, a pack is... I know one day they need to get used to wearing that.
That's a great way to do it. What is the water situation like for drinking water?
No drinking water. We have not had any tap drinking water since we left home. Everything is either bottled water or we don't like drinking out of bottled water. I just feel like the waste of the plastic bottles just like kills me. It pains me to see all of the waste. So we bring, we have chlorine tablets. So we just use the tap water here, put the tablet in it to purify it, and then within 30 minutes. And that's honestly, that's what we did on the trail too. So a lot of people said, oh, well, you can just drink right out of the spring that's coming out of the rocks. And we're like, nah, for the 16 cents it's going to cost for the water purification tablet, we will just do that. Nobody wants to be sick, especially in the mountains.
No. Yeah. Thank you. And tell us about the food in the tea houses.
The food is actually really good. We don't eat meat when we're on these treks because most of it either has to get packed in by porters or mules, and you don't really know how long it's been out of refrigeration or anything like that.
Okay.
So we eat a lot of dalbot, which is a huge one. Kids love it. We all love it. We also order a lot of pasta. Popcorn is a good snack they get. And there is pizza here as well, but again, it's usually just cheese pizza because we don't get any meat on it. But there's always, and the portions are so big. So we only usually get 2 portions and we just all share. And breakfast is just, you can be your standard breakfast, just eggs and toast.
Is it a menu that you're ordering?
Yeah, there is a menu. Yeah, there's a menu, and they're set prices by the ACAP. The government kind of regulates the prices. So the higher up you go, the more expensive things do get. Like boiling water at higher altitude takes a lot more gas and takes longer to boil. So I think like a pot, I want to say 3 liters of tea. I want to say it was 1,500 rupees, which is equivalent to about $15 Canadian. And when you're staying in these tea houses, it's usually pretty cold till they turn that stove on at about 5 in the evening. So you're buying one of those almost every day to stay warm.
Wow. That's so insane.
So some things are expensive, but for the most part, the food's actually not that expensive.
Okay. That's so cool. I'm so excited to go to Nepal one day and to do some treks and to stay in the tea houses. I cannot wait. My kids have to get a little bit better in endurance right now. They are a little bit of, my son is 2. Yeah.
You might want to wait another 2 years at least, because it's much more fun when they can hike themselves instead of you putting them in a path, right? Like having them run along the trail and seeing their accomplishments.
Yeah. That's a great way to do it, though, to have tea houses or a cabin or something that you can stay warm, shelter. You don't have to set up the tent every night. What a cool way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you tell us about your favorite moment ever being outside with your kids, if you can think of something?
No, I don't think I can. I have so many favorite moments. I honestly don't know. Like, nothing can really come to mind except for the most recent crossing that Thorongla Pass. When I saw those prayer flags and that sign, I cried such happy tears. It was like the craziest feeling of like such a sense of accomplishment that we all made it to there. It was incredible. There's nothing like I've ever felt before. Yeah, and so far, the only other day I felt that was the day we had our kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's the moment for sure then.
Yeah, honestly, I was just like, it was so much effort and so much work to get up to that pass. It was so cold and the kids were whining because their feet were so cold and their hands were so cold. We just had to get over that pass and get back down to the warmer weather. And yeah, we all made it. The kids at the top gave me probably 5 minutes of happiness. Well, we took some videos and photos and then we got out of there because it was so cold, but such a wow moment for us all.
You're all going to remember that forever and ever.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Is that the same place where you carried the girls down?
Yeah. So after that, right after that moment, we were like hiding behind this tea house that was not open. It was a tiny tea house. And then, in busy season, it's open, so you can get tea there and kind of, I don't know if you can go inside. It's very small, but you can get tea and warm up a bit. So we were behind this little tea house and the kids were just like so upset because their feet and their hands were so cold. So we broke out the hand warmers and the foot warmers and we took their hiking boots off and put on their fleece lined wool booties with the hot pockets in their feet and hands, and then we put them on us, and then we carried them down for 4 kilometers. It was like crazy downhill. Like, you lose so much elevation. And I thought it was going to be easy, but it's not. It was very hard. It was very hard. One of the girls that I was carrying was like, "Mom, is it okay if I have a nap now?" She's like, "Yes, you sure can." She was exhausted for her poor little feet being so cold, I guess. So yeah. They warmed up really quickly on us, though, and after about the 4 kilometers, I was like, okay, you got to walk now. I need you to walk, and it was way warmer down there, so we put their hiking boots back on them, and they ran the rest of the way to the tea house.
Wow.
And that was a 16-kilometer day, so they did 12 kilometers that day.
Wow, crushing it. They are so strong.
Yeah, it was a long day. That was, I think, a 9-hour day it took us. We did it, and the sun was shining when we arrived where we did, and we all got apple crumble when we arrived at the tea house, and it was a good day, even with a few tears.
So are you done the Annapurna trek now, or are you guys going back out there?
We are done now. We have, I think, 2 or 3 days left here, and then we are flying back to Bangkok. I'm going to spend a week on the beach doing nothing. It's just relaxing before we head home.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds amazing. You get your warm. Is that because flights were cheaper to go back to Thailand that way?
Yeah, so our flight home is actually out of Manila, but flights from Manila to Kathmandu into Nepal were way more expensive than stopping in Bangkok.
Did you book it Manila to Canada, and that's a return trip?
Yeah, that's a return trip. And then once we got to Manila, then we booked to Bangkok and to Nepal.
Okay, and those are 2 separate bookings?
Those are 2. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And because you've been looking at flights so much, what should people expect to pay to get from North America to Nepal? Could you give us an estimate?
Ooh, I don't really have a ballpark figure. I know it cost us to get to Manila was $6,500 return from North America, which is kind of steep, but it was the cheapest I could find at the time. Keep in mind, we only booked, I think, 6 weeks in advance because I mean, it would be nice if we could book further in advance. We are very last minute though. Plus, with Tyson's whole heart issues and needing the new heart valve, we had to get clearance from the doctor before we could even leave the country. So that's why we had to book kind of short notice. But any flights from North America to Nepal were very expensive. Like, I'm talking over $10,000 or maybe $13,000
For 4 people.
which is why we ended up doing it this way. It was cheaper this way, but I need to do a total and see how much all our flights actually cost.
Thanks for sharing that.
So I don't have a ballpark figure right now.
No, that's okay. I just thought, you've been there twice. I just was curious. That's even, I think, helpful for people to hear.
Yeah, and last time we were there, we were kind of coming from Australia to Bali to Thailand to here. So it was kind of it was all last minute too. So
okay.
Yeah.
Crazy. As we close out, I have a couple last questions that I ask everyone that comes on the show. What is one unique tip that you have for moms who want to explore more?
One tip would be, if you want to do something, just do it. Don't let the excuse of I have kids and I can't do it. You can do anything with kids. You just need to figure out a way to do it.
So good. There is a way. And can you share, Shannon, where we can follow along with you and all your adventures?
The best place to follow us is on Instagram at Restless Crusade. We do a blog, very not up to date on the blog though right now. We're trying to figure out what we're doing with that. Yes, Instagram is probably the best place at Restless Crusade.
Okay, love that. And I know you have lots of codes and coupons, so that's also helpful to get from you. Also, we go to your page.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Shannon. And I look forward to watching your relaxing time in Bangkok. Or I guess it's more on the beach, not in Bangkok, because I don't think there's a beach in Bangkok.
That's right. We have 2 days in Bangkok, and then we're going to Hua Hin, actually, which we haven't been to. I do hear Hua Hin is kind of like Mexico, though. It's kind of like just go relax on the beach. Not much to do there. So that's what we're doing.
I look forward to following along, and thank you so much for just sharing all the ins and outs. I know this will be so inspiring and helpful for anyone who's kind of thinking about treks international or specifically in Nepal.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I just wanted to say thanks for being here. Thank you for listening along. I hope that this episode was encouraging, motivating, inspiring. I want to hear what you think of this show. If you could please leave us a comment, if that's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever you're watching or listening to this. It is so helpful if you leave a comment, because that gets the show out to more people who would also enjoy it. I will be back every first and third Tuesday of the month. Have an incredible day.